My name is Monisha Bhayana. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Mentorship Coordinator here at the Roundtable. So my role is essentially to oversee this program, which is why I'm here speaking to you all today. I'm a light-skinned woman. I have dirty blonde hair. It's getting pretty long at this point. I'm sitting behind a blurred background. You can see a green wall and a blurry photo behind me. And I'm going to pass it over to Kim to quickly introduce herself.
Thanks, Mo. Hi, everybody. My name is Kimberly Olson. I go by Kim. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the executive director of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I am a pale-skinned white woman. I have a medium-length brown hair that's today pulled back in a bun. I'm wearing a blue dress, a blue sleeveless dress, and I'm also sitting here in my apartment in Long Island City, land of the Lenape, sitting against a white wall with a piece of wooden art behind me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. And so before we get started, let's do a bit of a land acknowledgement. So although we are currently meeting via an online platform, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we work and live on the unceded lands of Mannahatta, or the place widely known as New York City, which exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Lenape, Munsee, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. We'd like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities, which have helped build the city we know today. And as we acknowledge that all of our past, presents, and futures are intertwined, we'd like to uplift some contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can support and learn from. So Kim is going to throw those in the chat. I encourage you to learn about those organizations. If you have any others that you'd like to highlight, please feel free to throw those in the chat as well. And before we dive in, just a few Zoom reminders as well. We are recording today's session. You should have gotten an alert when you came in, just so you're aware. And we'll be posting this to our YouTube page and also the mentorship website, so everyone can have access to this session. And now I'm going to reshare my screen and we'll just go over a bit of an agenda overview for the evening. So agenda, welcome. We did a little bit of that, and we're going to go into our next section of the agenda, which is really going over sort of an overview of the program, and then we'll dive into the application itself in a little bit. All right, so first a little bit about the Roundtable itself. So we are a grassroots service organization that works to improve and advance the state of arts education through professional development, workshops, advocacy, online resources, and platforms to connect the arts education field. And this mentorship program is one prong of that. And so it's a new program. This is going to be our second year that we are running this program. Our first mentee cohort is just wrapping up their first year, and we've learned a lot in doing this first year. So we'll be able to apply what we've learned this year in working with all of you, which we're looking forward to. And I will pass it over to Kim just to speak a little bit about our program partners over at NYSCA.
Sure. So we are so grateful for the support of the New York State Council on the Arts, who is our partner in this program. They too, like us, realize that teaching artists are unicorns. You are essential in the schools and communities that you work in. And as a result, we want to make sure that we are providing resources and opportunities to support you in your career development. So we're so grateful for them, along with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature for making this program possible.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. So, have you worked in the field of arts education for at least 4 years? Are you asking yourself what's next for you in the field of arts education? Are you interested in expanding and deepening your professional practice? Are you a New York State resident? If you have answered yes to all of those questions, then you are in the right place, and we are so happy to have you here. So first, what is the New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program? So the program has what I would call 4 main components, which we'll dive into in detail in a few slides. But generally, there's the one-on-one mentorship component, where each mentee will be paired with a mentor, potentially 2 mentors, who is a leader in the field of arts education. And they will have 7 one-on-one meetings over the course of several months. The other components involve 8 field hours, which are really an opportunity to get out into the field, try and further your artistry, explore different things, try activities that maybe complement your experiences with your mentor. Then there's also a professional development component. There are 3 sessions we'll be holding in January, which will be open to everybody in the Roundtables community. And then we'll also have what we're calling coffee date sessions, which are for our mentees, which are smaller 1-hour Q&A sessions. Also, all mentees will receive free registration for face-to-face and day of learning. So those are other opportunities to work on your professional development. And then also as part of this program, mentees will receive a $2,200 grant, which is meant to cover the time of participating in this program. So we want to acknowledge that as a teaching artist, time can be money. And so we want to acknowledge this is part of your work as a teaching artist is participating in this program. So that $2,200 is really meant to compensate you for your time in your mentorship meetings, doing these field hours and participating in the professional development.
Yeah. And I'll add to it as well. Actually, Monisha, you've got this. Never mind. Take it away. In terms of just what is this program? Who's it for? Why 4 years and more?
Yeah, so basically the idea is this program is for mid-career teaching artists. So we're hoping to find folks who aren't necessarily exactly new to the game, but have been in it for a little bit and are trying to figure out how to take their next step in their career. So it's someone who maybe has been working as a teaching artist and is trying to figure out, maybe I want to start my own business, or maybe I want to try arts administration. I'm trying to help you navigate that next step, build connections, build out your professional network. And through the course of doing this program for a year, really we've seen that people who are teaching artists wear many hats. They're very busy folks, and sometimes you need an excuse to sit down and focus on the next steps for your career. And I view this program as a good excuse to be able to do that. A lot of our mentees currently are working with their mentors, sort of help them curriculum plan and start their own business, start their own nonprofit. So it really is, folks who have been at this around trying to figure out what their next step is. And as we've also been doing a lot of COVID relief fund grants the last few years, obviously times have been rocky, but we see that even though teaching artistry can be a field that comes with lots of ups and downs, folks still want to remain being teaching artists. They want to work in this field. People are passionate about this field and they want to continue working and doing that stuff. So this mentorship program is meant to really provide an opportunity for you to further those goals and make connections to help you build your career going forward.
Yeah, I think to add on to that then as well, what we realized, the Roundtable is so thrilled that through our Arts Educator Emergency Relief Fund, we were able to give away over $1 million to teaching artists. And through that process, learned that consistently across all 3 cycles, 95% of teaching artists wanted to continue working in the field of arts education. And what we knew going into pre-COVID was that 88% of our community said that mentorship and networking were of top importance to them when they think about what the Roundtable could offer our arts education community. And now as we fast forward a couple years, back in 2021, we released a list of demands for centering Black women's wellness, or for centering Black women, in arts education. And mentorship, again, was one of those themes that came up as a top priority when we're thinking about opportunities for promotion and advancement, not only for Black women in the field, of course, but for everyone. And we know, as Monisha said, teaching artists' career paths never quite take the same form. Everyone's looks a little different. That's why we have a sort of 4-year minimum, because we know teaching artists sometimes work in the field, they then go away, might focus on a different aspect of their professional life, and then float in and float out. I think something that surprised us this year is that we've had folks participate in the program that say have been working in arts education for 4 or 5 years. We've also had folks that were mentees that have been working in arts education for 25 to 30 years as well, which really aligns with our values of lifelong learning. So we're thrilled that we're able to continue to offer opportunities like this. And like I said earlier, excited that NYSCA shares that same value of supporting teaching artists and the work that you do.
Thanks, Kim. And so we touched on this a little bit. Really, project goals, we'll be selecting 14 mid-career teaching artists, and this is a chance to develop their skills and support career sustainability and advancement. We're also looking on the flip side of it with our mentors to try and have them gain a little bit more knowledge of what the experience is like as a teaching artist. Some of them are a bit farther removed from being on the ground and being a teaching artist. So it's really a reciprocal relationship. And obviously, a lot of folks who are serving as our mentors are a bit more senior. at their organizations. And so hopefully to build out your network and advocate for teaching artists to transition to more senior positions. And also the last really goal of this is really professional development opportunities. As we mentioned, we sort of have the large professional development opportunities in January and also the smaller coffee date sessions, really focused on what the mentee cohort is interested in, and we'll focus a little bit more on what those might look like. But really the goal of this program is to tailor it to the mentees who are in the program. So as we go along, if you're a participant in the program, if there's something you're interested in learning about, a goal you have, we encourage you to let us know, and we strive to make that possible. So who is eligible to apply for this program? This program is for independent teaching artists or teaching artist assistants. And those are folks who work with students in New York State public, private, and charter schools, colleges or universities, and/or community groups like senior centers, libraries, religious institutions, prisons, veteran centers, or the like. You must also be a current resident of New York State, and that's not just limited to New York City, it's all regions of the state. So if you live Western New York, upstate New York, we do encourage you to apply. And this is not intended for folks who are full-time permanent employees at a single organization. You're also not eligible if you are an organization, if you live outside of New York State, or if you are currently employed as a certified teacher by a New York State school. Also, current staff members and board members of the roundtable are not eligible. I don't think any of you are on this call, but just to clarify, if you are a member of the roundtable, you are indeed eligible to apply. It's just staff and board members who are not. So now we're going to delve a little bit more into the program structure. This is really the meat of what the program will look like. So the first component is obviously your mentorship. So each mentee will be paired with a mentor or mentors based on what the mentee expresses their goals are for participation in the program. So when we are pairing up mentees, we're going to ask you sort of what you want to get out of the program, what your ideal mentor might look like, if you want to have anything in particular in common with your mentor, if you want to share the same artistic discipline, if you want to work with someone who's started their own business, if you want to work with someone who's worked at an organization that's longstanding for a while. You'll be meeting with your mentor at least 7 times, and those meetings we hope will start in November. It takes us a few weeks to sort of make those initial pairings once we've selected our mentee cohort, and those meetings are really planned between the mentee and the mentor. So my role is sort of get the ball rolling. I'll make the initial introductions and help you schedule your first meeting, but then from there it really is up to the mentors and the mentees to plan the rest of their 7 meetings. The second component is the professional development component. We'll be having public workshops in January 2023. I will note this is an update. So if you looked at the website maybe a week ago, a few days ago, initially these were maybe going to be in November or December, but we've had some reshuffling of events. So they will be in January 2023. They'll be open to, again, anybody in the roundtable community. They'll be held on Tuesday, January 10th, 17th, and 24th. If you are interested in applying for the program, but for some reason are unavailable at those dates and times, just shoot us an email at the roundtable. We're flexible. We're meant to make this work. In the past, we've had them recorded and sort of worked it out that way, but we can find a way to make it work. Don't not apply because you are not available on those January dates. But if you are available and selected, we would love for you to attend because we think they're valuable sessions. And just for some context of what those might look like, this past year, we focused on building relationships during COVID and after, centering the healing-centered art classroom, and sort of reconnecting and recharging and how you can fuel your own artistry. So that's what we had last year. And we'll see what our TA Affairs Committee comes up for this year's professional development sessions. Our next component is the coffee date sessions. So those are those 1-hour Q&A sort of sessions with experts in certain areas that are of interest to the cohort. So this past year, we had sessions on financial planning and stability. We had sessions on nonprofit structure, working with boards, grant writing. So we're going to really work with the mentees who are selected to find topics that are of interest to them, and we'll build the coffee date sessions around those interests. We expect to have 5 of those sessions. We'll sort of take a break in January when we have professional development sessions. So it'll be October, November, December, February, March. And we'll plan those again around the selected mentees' availability, try and vary times and days and whatnot so as many people can attend as possible. And if you're selected, we're expecting you to attend 3 out of 5 of those sessions. Again, in this past year, we've recorded them for folks who are in the program so they have access to them, but we found it's more valuable if you can be there and interact with the experts and ask questions. So you'll be expected to attend at least 3 out of 5 of those. We also have the field hours component. So you're expected to complete 8 field hours over the course of your time in the mentorship program. And that's really an opportunity to explore various arts education settings, and they're meant to complement your mentorship sessions. So you could go see a show, you could go visit an exhibit, you could maybe shadow someone who's doing work that you're interested in. We at the Roundtable are here to help you find those opportunities. So if you're accepted into the program and there's a place you want to connect with, an area you're interested in, let us know. And it is our job to try and help you find ways to do field hours in that space. And it's really flexible. So it's really meant to fuel your artistry and really just give you an excuse to try different things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise set aside time for. And who are our mentors? So we will be selecting mentors from the Roundtable Network, and we know folks around the city, around the state, and even various parts of the country. So this year, we've had mentors from New Victory, from Roundabout, Community Word Project, Museum of the Moving Image, all sorts of institutions throughout the city and the state. And the way this process is going to work is basically we'll be having a one-on-one meeting with everyone who is selected in the program and get a sense of what your goals are for participating. So if you are someone who is a theater teaching artist and interested in eventually running an education department at a nonprofit, perhaps you would benefit from having a mentor who works and heads a education department at a nonprofit. So we'll sort of talk it through with you and figure out what the best pairing would be. And so again, that will take a few weeks for us to sort through, because we really want to tailor it to you and find a mentor who's a good partner with you. And obviously another part of our goal is to make sure we're not pairing you with folks you already know. Part of the goal of this mentorship program is to expand your networks and meet new people, and also feel like you can be candid about your experiences and not feel like you're speaking with a potential or current employer and that sort of feels like you're not comfortable to speak to them about certain things. So that is who our mentors are. And again, they're in a range of all different arts disciplines, and it's completely curated and tailored to who our mentees are. And we'll also get a sense of this in your application. You'll see when we go through it, sort of ask what your ideal mentor is, what your goals are for the program, and that will help us sort of initially put together some ideas and some thoughts on who might be a good mentor for you. All right, now we're gonna...
Monisha, just to add on to that too, I pasted in the chat a press release that has all of our mentors from this past year. However, with the caveat that these aren't necessarily the mentors that are going to be mentoring this year, because again, we want to tailor it very much specifically to who's participating in the program. That the Roundtable takes a lot of care in really understanding what your goals and values are, and finding folks within our expansive network to match that. So not only is it the Roundtable staff that is working on that, it is also our board of directors, which is 30 incredible practitioners working across the field. We also connect with NYSCA as well, really to intentionally ensure that we are connecting you with somebody that you'll really be able to learn from and grow alongside with. In addition to that, I think Mo, you said earlier, some folks had 2 mentors this year. And the reason for that is we recognize sometimes that we found that folks' needs were so nuanced that it was difficult to find just one person to really be able to support what they're seeking to get out of the program. So what we found with this year is that in some cases, we ended up pairing folks with 2 mentors. And that way they were able to really lean on one mentor for a certain area of their professional development and growth, and another in another area as well. And so it's something that, again, as Monisha said, this program is still very much in its infancy. We're entering year 2, and something that we hope to continue to learn and grow as we figure out how best to serve the needs of you as teaching artists. And so with that, we'll transition to some questions. I saw one come in the chat. How do we identify current residency? Do we have to prove our residence on paper? I think we'll talk
So
about this later, but Monisha, take it away.
yes, so in the application, you'll see there's a spot to upload essentially a photo, and there's a variety of things that work. We'll go through a full list later, but for example, a driver's license, a residency card, piece of mail. Kim's got the full list in the chat. So it's a wide range of stuff. And if you're unsure if something would work, again, feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk through it and figure it out. So it's pretty simple. It's just one document really just to establish it, nothing too complicated, and a wide range of documents work for that.
Yeah, but an important distinction that it's residents, not folks that work in New York State. Where you might work in New York City, but if you live in New Jersey, according to NYSCA's regulations around this program, unfortunately, we're only able to offer that grant funding to those that currently reside in New York State. But yeah, other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or come off of mute.
Let's see, can we suggest the kind of mentor we're looking for? Or do you have a list of mentors? We are open to suggestions. As Kim said, this is really meant to be tailored to the folks who are selected. So when you're filling out the application, we ask about your ideal mentor. If there are names you want to throw on that list, please feel free to let us know when we're having those one-on-one conversations with the mentees who are selected. If there are folks you have in mind, again, let us know. We don't have like a set list that we're pulling from. We're really going to find mentors based on who is selected in the program. So it'll be tailored to you and sort of based on obviously who is available and making sure that schedules line and everything. But this is not like a set preset list. We are open to suggestions. If you have thoughts and you're selected, we welcome those. Let's see, are people who work in the US with a work/artist visa eligible for this? Kim?
Yes. As long as you are able to receive a 1099, then you are eligible to participate in this program and then be awarded the grant money as well.
Is there a mentorship program for those who have taught less than 4 years? So this is the one program the Roundtable currently has, but if you've taught for less than 4 years and you're sort of wondering if this might be the right fit for you, again, you can reach out to me. We can talk through and see. We acknowledge teaching artistry is a very fluid career. And so maybe, if you've had slightly less than 4 years, not like a hard cutoff necessarily. We're just looking for folks who have been at it for a while and consider themselves to be mid-career.
I'm going to see, when is the application due? I believe August 19th at 6 o'clock Eastern time. The application is due. So keep in mind that time zone, knowing that we live in a virtual world and that folks might be traveling. That is when the application platform itself will close. Any applications that are not submitted by that time will be lost. You won't have a draft that's saved. So please make sure you get that in on time.
Would you have established visual artists as mentors? If you are a visual artist and you are looking for a visual artist to be a mentor, that is likely something that we can make happen. Again, we don't have a set list, but if you sort of describe your ideal mentor to us, what you're looking for, we will do our very best to pair you with someone that really will accomplish your goals for what you're looking for in the program. How many spots for this application? So we have 14 teaching artists that we'll be selecting. Obviously, we don't know how many people will apply, so we'll see how competitive of a process that is, but we'll be selecting 14 teaching artists to be part of this cohort. See, from Timothy, I'm a seasoned veteran, but can always learn more. Is the mentorship open for mentees or mentors? Like Kim mentioned earlier, we've had some mentees in our program who have been in the field for 25, 30 years. Like we said, we think that there's always room to learn more. So if you'll be interested in being a mentee, even though you've been in the field for a while, feel free to fill out an application. And then if you are looking at the application, you think maybe I would be a better mentor, the application's not the right thing to fill out, but if you just want to shoot us an email sort of with your background, again, depending on who's selected for the program, we don't necessarily know what types of folks we'll need as mentors, but we're always looking for folks to add to the Roundtable community. And I see a hand up. Amon, do you want to unmute yourself? You can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering So I lived in New York City for 5 years before the pandemic, and then had to go back halfway across the country for 2 years, and came back on October 4th, 2021. Um, and I was wondering if that counts as being a resident of New York State.
Yes, well, if you currently are living in New York State right now, and you have an address, like you're able to give proof of address for residents in New York State, then you are eligible to apply. If you're currently living outside of the state, then you are not. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, what would you accept as proof of address? Because my ID still says Colorado.
Oh, yeah. So I pasted a link in the chat, or a list in the chat earlier, but some examples of acceptable proof of residence include a driver's license, property tax receipt, utility bill, lease agreement, insurance card, voter registration card, college enrollment papers, mail. That's also just a small list. There are other things as well. So if you're not quite sure if something counts, feel free to send Monisha an email. I know she'll put her email in the chat, and then we can figure out what might be the best fit.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. See, I think we'll take maybe 2 more questions, Monisha. Anything that we don't answer.
And we'll have room at the end too for more. Yep. Let's see, Patrice, are full-time teachers allowed to apply?
So it's a bit of a nuanced answer. If you are a full-time certified teacher working within a New York State Education Department school, then you are not eligible to apply. However, if that does not apply to you, please send us an email. And so that way we can figure out exactly if you are eligible. That we know sometimes folks might work as substitute teachers in, say, a DOE school, or in a public school, or you might work with a charter school, that you may still be eligible to apply. But again, on a case-by-case basis, definitely reach out to us. That way we can make sure 100% that you are eligible to participate in the program.
And I see 2 more questions, which actually will be what we're jumping into for our next section. So these are good transition questions. How will mentees be selected, and is there an application link to share? So we're about to go through the application here, just to sort of give you a sense of what it will look like when you are applying to the program. So I will share my screen once again. All right, so this is our website, the landing page for the Teaching Artist Mentorship Program. And if you go on here, I'm sure some of you saw this page when you were trying to sign up for this information session. But if you scroll down on here, there are a few places where you can access the application itself. There's this handy Apply Now link here you can use. If you keep scrolling down, how to apply. Click here to access the submittable application. That's the platform we're using to collect applications, so you can click there. I'll also note there's a link here to click on a Google Doc copy of the application questions. I do just want to reiterate that that has all the questions, but that is not the actual application. So please don't attempt to fill that out. If you fill it out in this Google Doc, it's not going to get to us. It's sort of a resource for you if you like to have another place to sort of practice writing your responses, or if you want to save it another place, you can download a copy of that document rather than putting it into the application. But to actually apply for the program, you will need to go through submittable and click on this link here, the one up above. If you keep scrolling, I think we have it one more place, maybe not. But yeah, so you can how to apply this link here, or right up here, apply now. And when you click on that link, it will bring you to our submittable webpage. And the program you want to be applying for is, again, fiscal year 23, New York State Teaching Artist Mentorship Program. You'll see a little blurb about the program, which is largely what we went over already. We're selecting 14 mid-career teaching artists. It has the 4 components. This is just a link back to the website. And then you'll want to click on submit, which will open up this eligibility form. And so you're going to fill this out first, just to confirm that you are eligible to apply for this program. So you're not going all the way through the application if for some reason it turns out that you weren't eligible to apply in the first place. So we'll ask you if you are a current resident of New York State. Do you identify as a teaching artist? Are you a full-time permanent employee for a single organization? Are you currently employed as a certified teacher by a New York State school? Again, sort of with those nuances that Kim just mentioned. So again, if you have specific questions on that, again, feel free to shoot us an email and we can try and sort through that in each individual case. Are you a current staff member or board member of the roundtable? Again, I don't expect that any of you are. Again, if you are a member of the roundtable, that's totally fine. If you are for some reason unsure if you are a staff member or board member, there are links here that you can click on to get a full list of those folks. If you are not in that list, you are eligible to apply. And then lastly, if you are accepted into the program, because you will be receiving a 1099 and that honorarium payment of $2,200, we will need either a social security number, an EIN, or an ITIN, and a bank account number and routing number so we can process payments to you. So assuming that you answer all of these questions in a way that means you are eligible, it will bring you to our application form, which you will see here. The first bit is very straightforward. It's really just information about yourself, contact information, your name, email address, phone number, your address. And then we have the spot for proof of New York State residency that we discussed. So again, just upload a file there. Many types of documents are acceptable, like we discussed: a driver's license, property tax receipt, mail, utility bill, insurance card, whole gamut of things. Again, if you're ever unsure if something applies, feel free to reach out to me and we can go through it. This next section is just basic demographic information: age, ethnicity, gender, and then some basic information on your experience as a teaching artist, what county you reside in, what your discipline is. If you have multiple disciplines, feel free to select multidisciplinary or other, and it will give you space to elaborate if you feel like you need to describe more than what the options are there. It will also ask you for how many years you've been working as a teaching artist. And then we're getting really to the meat of the application here. So we're asking you to upload a bio, a resume, or a CV that speaks to your experience, training, or professional development, arts education. And for the file that you're selecting here, we recommend you keep in mind, obviously this is a program for teaching artists. So try and select a bio or resume that really shows your teaching arts experience, especially if maybe you have experience in other fields or you've had multiple careers. Just keep in mind our panelists who are reviewing these applications are looking for mid-career teaching artists. So you want to select a resume or a CV that really highlights your experience in that area. There's also an opportunity to put your website or LinkedIn if you have one. No big deal if you don't, but it's just another opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about you. How did you learn about this opportunity? Some basic questions on how you would like to meet with your mentor. Again, COVID times, things are constantly moving. So this will all depend on ultimately your comfort level and that of your mentor, but indicate if you would like to meet in person, virtually, or perhaps a combination of both. And then if you have a particular area of interest. So we've got a few ideas listed below, but if there's something that's not on that list, please feel free to add it in. That's not a list of the only things you can talk about with your mentor. This is meant to be a program that is tailored to you and what your goals are. So let us know what your goals are in this section. And then here we have really, again, the meat of the question. So what are your personal and professional goals for participating in this program? Where do you see yourself in 2 to 5 years? How do you see this program supporting those goals? What are challenges that you see facing you in the next step in your career? And completing the sentence, my ideal mentor would be, and as we talked about, if there are names, you can throw names in there. If there are general qualities, general characteristics, feel free to list them there. And this last question, how will you prioritize the mentorship in light of your other time commitments and responsibilities, is really meant to get at how are you going to juggle this opportunity with all of your other things you have going on as a teaching artist. That's what we're really gauging with that question. And for all of these, you'll see underneath we have, if choosing to submit a video, please write "see video" in the field above. And that is because if you feel like you express yourself better just chatting and you don't want to write a response, that's an opportunity you have here. So you can choose to submit a video instead of responding to these questions individually in writing. But because of the way the application is set up, it will require a response in each of these fields. So if you do choose to submit a video, just write "see video" or "see attachment" or something like that in these fields, just so it will let you go ahead and submit the application. And you would attach that video down here. Again, it's your choice whether you'd like to submit via video or writing. No prejudice either which way you choose to do it. It's however you feel like you're best able to present yourself. And then we have a last catch-all question here. If there's anything else that wasn't covered in the application that you'd like to share about yourself, we welcome you to do that in that space. And finally, just an acknowledgement of the expectations of the program, those professional development sessions that you'll be attending your mentorship meetings, go to the coffee date sessions, and do the field hours. And once you have filled that all out, click submit form. We also encourage you, as you are filling it out, to save your draft. It will auto save, but you never know with technology. We do recommend that you save your draft as you are working on it, just to prevent any catastrophes where Submittable decides to shut down randomly and not save your answers. And again, we also have that Google Doc available as well if you're someone who likes to save your answers in like a Word document or something and then copy paste them over here. However you feel most comfortable doing that. I'm sure you all have filled out many an online application before, but just a reminder to please save your answers because you never know with technology. And that is the application form. I know we went through that a bit quickly, but we just wanted to give you a sense of what that will look like when you are going through. And now I'm just going to pop back into the slideshow for a second. And then once we've finished the slideshow, we'll circle back for more questions to the extent anyone has any.
Yeah, so folks, feel free to keep putting questions in the chat. We're collecting them on our end, so we'll go back to it as soon as we get through just our last few slides, including talking about how our application is going to be reviewed against what criteria and by who.
Awesome, thanks, Kim. So application materials, it's that submittable application we just went through, which again, within there, will ask you for your bio or your resume. You can also include your website or LinkedIn, and also that proof of New York State residency that we discussed. And here's the list that Kim copied into the chat earlier. Again, any of these will work, but if there's something else and you're not sure, please just let us know. I also go through and review all the applications. So if you've uploaded something and I have a question about it, I might reach out to you and ask you about it. So if you see one of those emails, don't worry. It's not like I'm saying automatically you are not eligible. I just might get some clarification on something to make sure we have all the information we need. A review of the dates and deadlines. The most important one for you all is obviously the date of the deadline closes. As Kim noted, this is Friday, August 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. As Kim said, the program is set up, so at 6:01, there are no longer any applications that can be sent in. So if you've been working on it and then you don't send it in by 6, unfortunately, it sort of gets eaten up by the submittable system. So please remember to take time and try and submit it in advance of that 6 p.m. deadline, just so we don't have any issues. Again, those professional development dates will be not the first 3 Tuesdays, but almost the first 3 Tuesdays in January after the New Year's holiday. And again, if you want to apply and for some reason those don't work out for you, again, just let me know. We are flexible. The coffee date sessions, which will be sort of the first thing that we'll pick up as part of the mentorship program. So we expect those to start in October, and then we will pair you with your mentors, and those meetings will hopefully kick off in November. Funding, Kim, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure thing. So let me just let them in the room. Great. So grant recipients will be awarded in their funding in 3 parts, pending their contract signature and then pending submission of a completed W-9, relevant banking information, and completion of the project goals as well. You are going to be paid via ACH, which is direct deposit, or via check, whichever is your preference. Please note that that income is considered taxable income by the government. So that's something to plan for as part of your participation in the programming. And again, this award is meant to cover your time and participation in all aspects of the program. We've gone through and budgeted out approximately how much time on an hourly basis we believe that you would spend. And that's where we get that $2,200 figure from.
Awesome. And how will these applications be reviewed? So we have compiled a lovely panel of 6 New York State-based teaching artist education practitioners who will be reviewing the applications. And each application will be reviewed by at least 2 of our panelists as an initial stage of review. I'll also be reviewing for eligibility, and then we will meet as a panel to discuss those applications. And they'll be rating them based on the following criteria. So demonstrated evidence of experience, training, and or professional development, arts education. And they'll largely be looking at your resume and your CV to sort of get a sense of that criteria. Articulated desire to take the next step in your career, and that can be whether deepening your work as a teaching artist or moving beyond teaching artistry, perhaps something like arts admin or starting your own business. And you'll see that these correspond pretty closely to the questions in the application. So this criteria will pretty closely correspond to the questions about what next step would you like to take? What challenges do you see? Third criteria is clarity in articulating your professional, personal goals. Why do you want to be in this mentorship program? And also your sense of commitment to the program, which is really just sort of making sure that if you're in this program, you have the time to commit to it in light of all of your other responsibilities. I'll also note the review process is not anonymous. Obviously, we do have that video component and folks will be looking at resumes and CVs. However, if a panelist happens to know either personally or professionally an application that comes across their desk, they will be asked to recuse themselves from reviewing that application. And also these criteria are not listed in any order of importance. They're all equally weighted. So really it's a holistic review of the application, and folks are going to be rating basically on a scale of 1 to 5, really where you rank on each of these criteria. And we'll put all those scores together, and the folks who scored the highest will be let into the program. But also along with that rating system, there is also a discussion component amongst all the panelists, so that, you know, every application is given its fair time, its fair due, and they're all looked at lovingly and carefully. And then we will stop to take, again, any additional questions that folks have.
Great. So we've had some come through in the chat. We just discussed how mentees will be selected, although if there are more specific questions from that, please, again, either raise a hand, come off mute, or put it in the chat. Are mentors compensated? I like to request someone as a mentor, but want to make sure they'd be compensated for their time. Yes, mentors are compensated as part of the program. The Roundtable is very much committed to compensating folks that do work. We think that is imperative, that anytime somebody is putting in effort and work, that they must be compensated for their time. So mentors are paid for their participation in the program. However, we do, to reiterate what was said earlier, we want to make sure that the mentors that are paired with each mentee are not folks from your network per se. So not folks you already know. Really, we want to be able to use this as a tool to help grow your network. So if there's somebody in mind that you're like, oh, well, I already work really well with so-and-so, that's not quite the goal that we're hoping to go for. We want to, however, if it's somebody that you don't know, that you think, wow, they'd be really interesting to work with, and maybe one day for, who knows, feel free to put their name in your application. Let's see. Can you attach a video and written answers to the application prompts? Good question. I would say let's pick one, just because we want to give a fair opportunity, knowing that there are a limited number of words in the written responses. So we ask that you just choose either to submit a written video, or to submit a written response, or to submit a video response. One or the other. Again, if you do choose the video option, you'll need to write something along the lines of see video or submitted video or see attachment, so that you are able to submit the application. When will we learn of the 14 candidates being awarded? Those candidates will be notified by September 16th. And then we will also be putting out a formal press release as well. Again, part of the program for us, or the part of the goal of the program for us, is to be able to spotlight the teaching artists participating, which we're exploring what are different ways that we do that. So sometimes it's putting out a press release that then gets sent out to our mailing list of 6,000 folks and sent out on social media to our audience of 10,000 people across all of our platforms. It's by doing things like enabling our mentees to do blog posts, enabling them to do Instagram takeovers, or if other things come to mind that they're interested in. But those initial decisions are going to be made by September 16th.
And we will let you know either way. You'll get an email from us, so it won't just be lingering. And also just to note, everyone who applies will get a 1-year membership to the roundtable. So even if you don't necessarily get selected, you'll get access to all the roundtable has to offer. So that's a nice perk of applying as well.
See, we are bilingual teachers, Mandarin, Chinese, Cantonese. English is okay for the match. I'm not sure if that was a question meant for us. If so, please feel free to come off mute or add more to the chat. But bilingual folks are welcome to apply if you are, if you feel more comfortable submitting an application in another language or would like to request a mentor that speaks a language other than English, please indicate that in your application. Again, we want to tailor this to best fit and meet your needs as an applicant. Right? There are mentors I'd like to suggest. If they're not available, will you make suggestions? 100%. We recognize that, like, I know, of course, I'd love Michelle Obama as a mentor, but it might not happen. So we do encourage you to make suggestions, just with the caveat that folks' schedules might not enable them to participate. It might not be the right time or the right opportunity for them to do so, but it gives us then a sense of the type of mentor that you're looking for. So please feel free to suggest folks or suggest areas of interest for you, but with the understanding that we might not be able to have you paired exactly with that individual in the case that they are not available. Or is there an organization that we'd like to mentor with that has the teaching artist aspect we're looking for? Yes, actually, something that's happened this year is that we've had participants in the program say, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about restorative justice work. I don't necessarily want that to be the focus of my mentorship program, or I'm really interested in learning about arts in juvenile justice settings. Do you know anybody that maybe I can talk to about this for an hour, take out to coffee, have a Zoom with? And yes, we at the roundtable, we have a really great network of folks that we've been able to facilitate meetings. Say, I know there's one person we connected with, the head of education at the Queens Museum. There's somebody else we were able to connect that is one of the longtime teaching artists with the Lullaby Project at Carnegie Hall. That's something that we're definitely able to do, and encourage you, just if that's something that's top of mind, include it here. In those instances as well, where folks had those one-off meetings with particular individuals that were working in an area that was of interest of them, that went to their field hours. So yes, and to that.
As we mentioned too, this is being recorded, so if there's something that you feel like you missed, it'll be up on our YouTube and website probably by the hopefully end of the week or beginning of next week. So that will be there as a resource for you as well. And I'll actually put in the chat a link to the slides that we shared as well, so you can view that. And that goes over really most of the information as well, so you have that as a resource. I just popped that in the chat.
Any other questions that we can help answer? Again, feel free to put them in the chat, come off mute. See, do all the organizations have to be in New York State? For instance, the Kennedy Center has a great teaching artist program. No, all of the organizations don't have to be in New York State, or all the mentors don't have to be New York State based. In fact, we actually had a mentor that lived in Washington this year. So it doesn't have to be limited. The mentors themselves don't have to be limited to New York State or the United States. They could be global, as the Roundtables Network is one that does interface with global entities and folks from across the country. So if there are organizations of interest, if there are types of programming that's of interest, again, feel free to put it in your application. If we're not able to make a match, say with your mentor, again, another option is we're able to possibly facilitate then sort of one-on-one meetings as well. Especially I think of the Kennedy Center. Monisha and I just met with the Kennedy Center maybe 2 or 3 months ago to talk about teaching artist mentorship, with them better understanding what we're doing and them figuring out what their next steps with their own teaching artist mentorship program is. So yes, and to that. Any last questions before we wrap up for this evening? See, say you have 30 TAs with max score in your criteria rate. How would you make the selection after? Great question. So while we do look at the scores, we then look at the top scores, as Monisha was saying. However, we recognize that there's a nuance to the conversation of how awards are, how grantees or how mentees rather for this program are selected. And so that's why we convene our panel of teaching artists for board meetings to discuss the applications, for folks then to review multiple applications. Oftentimes this is a multi-step process so that we are able to have our initial round of review. We then have discussion. We then have another round of review following that as well. So that really applications are getting multiple touch points before a final cohort is decided on. So that was the case last year. We had a tremendous amount of wonderful applications. We weren't able to select them all, but through that process of review and discussion and review again, we were able to then select our top 14 teaching artists to participate in the program. See, I'll give just another 30 seconds for questions, but we so appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Monisha, would you be able to put our contact information up or in the chat?
Of course.
Perfect. Please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to folks, not only about the application, but just about what's going on in your world. We are a service organization that works to help support people like you, whether through this opportunity, through advocacy, through other professional development, other opportunities. So please, I hope this is not the first, but the start of many times that we will be connecting with you. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Monisha put our emails in the chat. Let's see, I see one last question popped in. So if the chosen organization is in another state, are there additional funds for travel? So you won't be paired with an organization, you're going to be paired with an individual. If they happen to reside in another state, what we have found is that folks will typically use Zoom to do the meetings. However, there is funding available if you would like to travel to be able to meet your mentor. Again, this is something we then have to just figure out on a case-by-case basis. But there is funding available, especially I think about, say, if somebody lives in Buffalo, but maybe they're paired with a mentor that's in Syracuse, they'd like to meet up. That is something that we're able to cover outside of the grant award that each grantee would be receiving. Great. Well, and thank you all so much. If there are other questions that come up, we'll stay on just for a few more minutes to answer anything. Again, feel free to email us, but we really look forward to reading your applications. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody.